So, I was watching a clip from EFAP, or Every Frame a Pause, which is a podcast that talks about movies, and they were comparing the quote-unquote live-action Snow White to the original. At one point, a fellow canine named Rags made a good point about combining music and visuals.
Just kind of the way that you remember things. You don't have a visual to tie to the memory of the noise. So when she's just standing around singing, she's just standing around. There's nothing happening. When she has her love song with Jonathan, they're just standing together, singing at each other. There's no interesting visuals. They don't do anything. They're not performing any action. They're not going on like in Robin Hood when they have the love song where they're going through the forest through Sherwood Forest. And they're jumping over, like, hopping over waterfalls, and they're going underneath bushes. Love goes on. And you have all the scenes of them doing things, performing actions. It helps you to remember these songs because there's visually something happening.
This brought up something I hadn't really thought about before that's a massive problem with these live-action remakes. Being live-action remakes of animated films makes them inherently more forgettable. Why? Because it's so much easier to have a memorable visual to go with any moment in the film, especially the songs, when every frame is literally a painting. The colorless image of a real person standing around with boring framing and composition leaves no impact on the viewer. If anything, it just leaves a negative impact. It's not that you can't have better cinematography, more vibrant colors, or interesting lighting choices, but real life is naturally darker, rougher, dirtier, and more dull than animation. Real life can be beautiful, of course, but it can also be incredibly disgusting and downright depressing to look at. Meanwhile, with animation, there's no limit to how beautiful and stylized you can make everything, even things that are supposed to look dark or disgusting. It's all actual artwork. Photorealistic CGI can be cool when it's used appropriately, but the whole point of it is that you're trying to emulate real life, and that's why it looks too detailed, too dull, and often very disturbing. It's trying to replicate all the wrong things when you are doing an adaptation of an animated film.
What the fuck is this shit?
Especially if you cut corners on the CGI and then you get the effect where things look like monsters from another reality. Seriously, go back and watch some older animated movies, like older Disney movies. Almost every frame is beautiful to look at. There are backgrounds in some of those films that you could frame and hang on your wall. Can anyone point to a single frame in any live-action Disney remake that they would consider to be beautiful, let alone want to put in a frame or use as a wallpaper? Why would you? It's all disgusting Uncanny Valley nightmares, void of color, way too dark, overly detailed, full of dead, emotionless faces and tiny, non-expressive eyes. When you think about it, real people only look amazing at the right angles with the right lighting. Even the most attractive people can look weird or even gross from an unflattering angle with terrible lighting. That can't really happen with animation unless the animator wants it to happen. Almost every time you pause an animated film, it'll look anywhere from good to great. But if you randomly pause a video of a real person, the chances that it'll look good at all are much lower. Every moment in real life is not an actual piece of art. So trying to use real life or realistic-looking CGI to compete with cartoonish and stylized animation in terms of being visually beautiful is incredibly difficult, if not impossible. It's a fool's errand because animation has almost no limitations. Reality has a lot of limitations. If you're wondering why certain shots from animated movies stick out in your mind more than any shot from these remakes, it's because it's easier for every frame to be a painting when, like I said before, every frame is literally a painting.
Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! I want all of you to look at it!
That's not to say you can't have live-action remakes, but you have to take advantage of what live-action can do that animation would have difficulty recreating, such as looking real. But that's not what most of these remakes are doing. They're trying to recapture the feelings people had while watching the original films, recreating the visuals that everyone remembers. The obvious problem is that people remember those visuals more easily because they're clean, colorful works of art. You're basically trying to compete with animation over who can look the most animated.
That's fucking stupid.
Again, even if you try really hard with framing, composition, lighting, and stylistic choices, it's going to be much harder for a realistic-looking image to beat animation at its own game. What you should be doing instead is making an original, live-action work with its own unique visuals that will stand out in people's minds instead of trying to recreate animated visuals without animation. Take advantage of the medium you're actually using instead of trying to copy a medium that is inherently not supposed to look like real life. It's like saying, "Excuse me, can you make this caricature more realistic?" You're missing the point of animation. If you want realism, then take a fucking photograph. Anyway, that was just a thought I had. There are plenty of reasons why live-action remakes of animated films often don't work, like being terribly written or executed, but this was just something interesting that I hadn't considered before. With that said, I'm Drachona, and have a nice day.